buddy.
Chris is your third committee member. He did.
And we have no Chris yet?
No Chris yet. He did accept the meeting invite, so maybe we'll wait one more minute. How do I? Oh.
Do we need all three of us to do business?
You need a quorum, which 2 out of 3 works.
2 out of 3 works?
Yeah.
Is there only 3 people on the finance?
Yeah, 3 people on finance.
Okay.
You're all set on this end. You're live streaming, so.
I'm on the wrong committee. Hold on. Wrong folder here. Okay. Okay. All right. So I only really scheduled this for 15 minutes, so we can go ahead and start. I think
15 minutes, huh?
Well, I know it's really hard to schedule these committee meetings, and like it's just hard. They're hard to schedule and like make sure they work for everyone and getting everything done and overlapping and all that stuff. So we'll see how this works.
Since I'm at a disadvantage because the bank does not like Zoom, can who all is on for me?
I'm here for you, Jeff.
Thanks, Hanif.
You got Hanif, Lydia, myself, Robin, Barry. Allison's kind of on the background doing our live stream, and Greg.
Greg, okay. So we will call to order. And Hanif, we need approval of the prior minutes from the October 7th meeting. Do you have any edits or changes?
No, I moved that and second.
All in favor, Hanif? You and I, yes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Review of assets and investments. Greg, do you want to tell us what we got?
Yeah, again, I think if you look at the sheet that we provided in the documents, it really just lists out our cash account and our CD balances as of December 31st by bank, and what those totals are, and those amount to a little over 5.4 million as of 12/31/2021.
I got to ask the painful. Painful question here. Is that why are we still using all of these banks?
It's a good question.
That is a really good question. Really good question. And the answer is it's really difficult working with all these banks trying to get them closed. And part of it is COVID, is dealing with the banks and, in person, but we are past that. The other part is Anna's out on maternity leave right now, is she's on all the banks and she actually has to physically go to every bank and do the work. So there's a lot of things, but it is on our list of priorities for this year when she gets back.
So when we do shrink this up, what are we keeping and what are we leaving?
Again, what I would tell you is like I said, this started pre-COVID. We're trying to reduce the number of financial institutions, right? It's just the paperwork alone is just too much, right? And it's harder to manage, obviously. Do I exactly know what banks we're going to continue with and not necessarily? But
Greg, are we going to do an RFP at some point to find out if we can, if there's anybody who's got a better sweep product than say M&T?
Yeah, we are. We started that process like back in, again, it must have been right 19, Robin, that we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to consolidate some of these accounts. We talked to a few banks to kind of get the lay of the land, and then COVID hit and everything went on hold. And even when the rules got relaxed, I think it was basically then Anna had to go in live to close these accounts down when the CDs mature, and the timing didn't work. we're getting there, and the goal is to minimize these. Go get an RFP, go to these institutions, ask them what the platform and rates would be, and consolidate these accounts. Believe me, there's no one more that wants to do this than me. And between this and the other organization, it's 20 something bank accounts, and it's just work. Like I said, the challenge is Anna physically has to go to these accounts for them to hand them a check. Okay.
So can we ask for a proposed timeline that we would like to see this completed? Would that sort of set the fire up under us to get it done? I think if we leave it out in ambiguity, we'll come back next year with the same thing. I think we can get a real good deal on the sweep here. This is a good amount of money right here.
Yeah. Again, so there's a couple of things that have to happen, and I'm all for it, right? We gotta do an RFP. We gotta engage with these whatever financial institutions, and we have to go to these other ones that we're taking the money out of and physically go there and get those funds and put them into a new account. So if we say, hey, by a certain date, will we have, I can't guarantee that with Anna coming back with what her schedule is, that she's going to be able to go to all these banks and do that in a certain time period. I don't know what her time frame is, but I mean, could we say?
Well, here's the thing. I understand that she has a lot on her plate, but somehow or another, we're going to have to prioritize this here. And it's not a thing that I think that we should just leave and say, when I get some time, I'll do it. What I'm offering is a proposed timeline that spells out all of the steps that we have to do, which would be an RFP, and then the transfers of these funds once we find the best bank for us. So the RFP and finding that bank would be the first step.
I agree with that, Hanif.
Yeah, after that, going to the banks right here, I will personally take Anna to each and every bank. I'll drive her to them.
Okay. How about, could we say 9/1 to have the RFPs done and completed, and 12/31 to complete everything?
If that's all right with the committee, because we want to report back to the board and tell them that this is up underway. I just think that we keep kicking this can down the road.
I agree, Hanif. Greg, if I'm okay if we put in the minutes that our goal is to have an RFP out and a recommendation to the board for the September board meeting. I think that's a good timeline for the RFP, and then then to get the accounts cleaned up and closed by 12/31. I think that's a fair timeline. So Hanif, I'm okay with that. Do we need a motion, or do we need to just make sure we include that in the minutes as a timeline?
I think we just need to put it in just as a proposal that this is our recommendation. Now, if the board wants to vote on that or think that it needs some type of approval, we'll discuss that at the board meeting. But this is a hard timeline. It's not a soft one. It's not that when I get around to it, it's not that, well, these are the first thing that we have to do. We haven't decided what bank. We're trying to put some action steps to it. And so I think the board would be basically fine with this. So I think that we should leave it like that. But this committee is recommending that we accept this timeline.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Great. Review the fee schedule.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Is that,
So the-
I was, is that, who's gonna talk about that?
I'm gonna actually
Lydia?
ask Barry, I'm gonna ask Barry to talk
Okay.
about that. The first page, oh, I just put mine out of order. Hold on. The first page is some research that Barry put together for us on other LDCs that issue bonds and what their fees are. And then the second page is our fee structure to date. And Barry can kind of get in more detail on, usually we do bring this to you every year just to review and kind of bless it, but there's been some discussion on refinancing. So I'll let Barry take that.
Sure.
I will, like it's my decision, but yes, Barry, could you please?
Sure.
Go ahead, Barry.
Thank you. So the chart, I decided to break it down into sort of the major components of the fee schedules that are typical for an LDC to charge. Of those, you have the application fee, the administrative fee, potentially some issuers will have a separate fee for certain either specific transactions, whether it be a refinancing transaction with no new money or something else. So if that was applicable, I put that column in. And then some bond issuers also will have an ongoing annual fee. And so I tried to sort of, pick some comparable issuers, whether it be obviously, the sister organization, the IDA for Monroe County, for example, or, Erie County, Onondaga County, Albany, and then some further downstate as well. And the ones in the surrounding area, obviously as well. But just so you could see that, your application fee, for example, is the second
is almost
lowest.
the lowest.
Yeah,
Next to Genesee County.
correct. And your administrative fee, while it is sort of stepped, is also lower than some of the other stepped ones, except for the ones downstate, which again typically issue a lot more frequently and a lot higher volumes, than potentially Monroe County. So if you look at your comparables, again, Onondaga County or whatever, or even just the IDA, they don't have the 1% up to 20 million. It's usually just 1%. So I just wanted to bring that sort of information to you to review and open it up for discussion as to, whether people have any questions or specifically or.
Barry, and you're probably not going to know this. Do we know how many projects we did over 20 million in the last couple of years?
I can pull it up at least from the website where you have posted the official statements, I think.
Yeah.
But I would say that most of your projects would be over 20 million.
Right. That's what in my head, I'm thinking, gosh, almost all of them are over 20 million, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not typical to have a bond deal really under 10 million. Frankly, just the upfront costs associated with it. You can get some smaller private placements for not-for-profits that are smaller than that, but typically, it's not really that cost effective to go below 10 million for a bond deal. And most of your deals that have happened, have been above 20 million that I'm aware of. So again, if you look at the Onondaga County CRT, which is their Cultural Resources Trust, it's a different type of organization, but it is a similar, has similar powers. You'll see that they have 1% for the first 25 and then 75% or 75 basis points for 25 to 50, 0.5%. And then, the steps that they have there are different. And again, they're one of the, they're one of, I guess, a comparable organization as far as if you were looking to do a stepped fee structure. But again, the IDA does not do, the Monroe County IDA doesn't do a stepped fee structure. So it's just something to consider.
What, who is it DASNY or who's our other competition on this?
Yeah.
The Dormitory Authority, DASNY, right?
Correct.
Do we know what they typically are, Barry?
So they have a different fee structure. They have like a minimum fee, which is usually about 125,000, and their fee structure changes by industry. So there's like healthcare, not-for-profit education, for example, and other things. But their issue is they have an ongoing fee of between 3 and 6 basis points annually. So they have a smaller upfront fee, but they have a large ongoing annual fee. And large is relative, of course, 3 basis points. But if it's 3 to 6 basis points on 50 million as an annual fee, obviously that will add up over the life of the bonds.
Yeah, I think we're low.
Yeah, Hanif, I agree with you based on looking at this data.
And low to the degree that it makes it to where it looks as though like we really don't know how to do business. When I look at just the application fee, and I recall us having this conversation a few years ago when it was set, is that we want people to come to us for the business. So I was asked, I says, well, the application fee is the thing that's gonna scare people away? And then when you look at how other CDCs see it, and I'm looking at maybe, I guess, proximity size or what have you, we see the difference. In the 9-county region, only Genesee is lower than us. So.
Well, yeah, we should be at least the same as Ontario. I at least. I think we're way below what we should be.
Well, I had that same thought, Jeff. And then the other thing in terms of the percentages on under 20 million and over 20 million, that may need to be looked at too,
Yeah,
sorry, and
I
was just going to say, and make a suggestion in the interest of time, as we kind of not take any action on this, because it sounds like we want to have some serious long-term discussions on the entire fee schedule.
Yeah, I think I think we need to. You guys, I think need to make a recommendation. Do you think we should maintain these fees? Or do you think that we should put them more in line, and then maybe we discuss it as a discussion item at the next board meeting? But I think you guys need to tell us what you think is what does the administration think is the best way to go here? I mean, Hanif and I think we need to raise them. So I think you guys need to tell us why we shouldn't make that suggestion, or get feedback from the other board members to see what they think in terms of. Because if we're going to make any motions today, I think Hanif and I both support increasing the fees.
Well, we're not going to do that today, but
no, I think I think though you and I would recommend the board increase the fees. So I think that it's a good discussion item. If the administration has a reason to think we shouldn't, then they need to present that case. Otherwise, I think we need to discuss as a board how high we should raise them. But I think looking at this, I'm with you, Hanif. We should at least be the same as Ontario County or Erie County, as far as I'm concerned. But
and I'm not just talking about the application fee. I'm just the percentages in terms of.
No, I think the 0.25% over 20 million. I think if we're going to give a break for over 20 million, it should be 0.75, not 0.25. If we're going to give a break, and I'm not sure I would. I think we should probably be at 1% for all, like Erie County, but or Ontario County. But if somebody has a good reason why we should, do different fees for different amounts, I would like to let them tell us why they think that we should do that.
And if it sounds like one of the things that, we could definitely add to supplement this is, maybe just adding an example of a DASNY fee versus your fee for, a hypothetical education project and a hypothetical hospital project, just so you could see the difference and make sure that, there's no.
That's perfect, Barry. I like that idea a lot.
Okay, well, I'll do that and, make sure that we circulate it in advance so that we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be on this board meeting. I mean, we can discuss it in April. I mean, right? I don't think there's anything.
Okay.
Yeah, you've probably already got the agenda set for next week, right?
So we're pushing the board meeting back to the end of the month, the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I guess we'll regroup internally.
Well, if you guys think that I mean, depending on how busy it is, if you think we can talk about it, I'd like to. But like I said, if we have to wait till April, I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
The Finance Committee charter.
Yes. So the good thing is with having a new attorney, he took a good look at every policy and including our charter, and he's recommending, right, Barry? I don't want to speak for you. No changes to the charter.
Correct. No changes to the charter at this time. So that's fine.
So Robin, do we need a motion to keep the charter as is, unchanged, or?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Hanif, do you want to make a motion to keep the Finance Committee charter, or do you want to discuss it, Hanif? Do you have questions?
My thing is that each and every year, do we have to approve the charter? Is this what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, all right. I make the motion to keep the charter the way that it is.
And I'll second the motion. Hanif and I, both in favor? Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Okay.
So the next three policies, the investment policy, procurement policy, and travel and business expense policy, took a look at it, went through them, did not recommend any changes to these policies. They do
for one that Barry doesn't know about, because Greg and I just talked about it this morning, and it was a request from the auditors on the investment policy, deposit of monies. It's on the first page, number 2. We would like to include a line that states the deposits shall not exceed $5 million to any financial institution.
Got it.
Where does that go up under deposits of monies?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So it says all monies of a corporation from whatever source derived shall be deposited, and you're putting a limit right in there, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me how that's going to read.
So it's going to read exactly the same, and then the last sentence will be added. We'll say the deposits shall not exceed $5 million to any financial institution.
Okay. Because we have a habit of giving it to 40 other banks. Okay.
Not a problem for us.
I could see that. I make a motion to move the investment policy with those changes.
I'll second that. All in favor, Hanif? Aye.
Aye.
Also, we need the procurement policy and the travel and business expense policy. I move that we approve those unchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Hanif, you want to second me?
Yeah, I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then last is your self-evaluation, which I didn't send out because I was trying to figure out what to do because I don't have them all from you guys. And
yeah, I was gonna say you haven't gotten mine. It's still sitting on the corner of my desk, the same place it's been sitting.
Right. So
the other paperwork you sent me.
Right. So I can tell you 2 of the 3 committee members did send it back, and both have checked yeses to the whole sheet. So your guys are in a good place. And then Jeff, we're going to hound you to send your forms in.
I knew you were going to ask. I'm looking right at the envelope sitting
Jeff,
here.
Jeff,
I'm
do you
like,
want- Jeff, do you want me to complete yours for you?
Robin, I promise that it'll be in the mail this week.
Thank you.
We'll get that thing filled out for you if you let me do it.
Do we need to, so we don't need to do anything else on that?
No.
Other than Jeff to send his back. Is there any other business that the finance committee has?
Nope.
All right. Hanif, could we get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, so move.
Aye, let's go.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks all you guys. Thanks, Barry. Thanks everybody that's on. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thanks, Robin, for all your help.
Yeah.
Bye, all.
All right. Governance committee now. I got 83 sheets of paper.
Yes, you do.
You're gonna tire Zach out with this one, yeah.
Yeah, right.
This is gonna be fun.
You read all 83 pages, right?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Very familiar with everything that's on here.
All right, we are good. We have 3 of you. There's 5 committee members. Ella was not able to join us today. She's out of town, and you still have a vacancy. We need to get someone to fill that seat at some point, but we're good to go for right now.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. All right, well, I'll call this meeting to order. The first is to approve the minutes from our last meeting. So I'll need a motion to approve minutes from December 10th meeting.
So move.
I'll second that.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, abstentions? Okay, I guess we're not gonna do that. Okay, so all in favor, aye. Okay. So next is we'll review the mission statement and measurement report. So that's a lot of what this is. Barry, do you have any comments?
Minutes and choice.
Not to the mission statement, no. That was fine. And obviously the measurement report's just a summary of the prior year.
Okay.
Yeah, this, look at, you can see this. This form is specific for the ABO, the Authority Budget Office. As you know, we give you an annual report in December, and it's just the same numbers that we gave you before.
Okay.
But we need you to bless it.
Okay. So a motion to readopt the mission statement and adopt the 2021 measurement report.
So move.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next is review the bylaws.
Sure. So I did have some comments. I'll try to summarize them as briefly as I can, because I tend to get a little wordy when I talk about bylaws. You know, it's one of my favorite things. So the first sort of couple of changes was to clarify your area of operations. It was just a reference to surrounding counties. And, you know, there could be some confusion as to what that means. You know, if we want to simplify it, of course, we could say contiguous, right? Then we know at least what that means more generally. But I decided to list them out. That way there was less potential confusion. I also sort of thought it would be appropriate to further clarify your powers under section 1411 of the not-for-profit corporation law. It was like a summary of what was there before and arguably slightly more restrictive. And so we decided that it would be beneficial to sort of list them all out there. The other thing that is important to note is the directors. The bylaws sort of permitted before that your minimum would be 9 and your maximum would be 25. Your certificate of incorporation, however, has a lower number. Uh, Lydia.
You're on mute, Lydia.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
We heard you before. We can't hear you now.
He's not saying anything.
Well, she is.
No.
He
You
looks
want to
like
run up here?
he's just looking at his screen.
Lydia, if you type it in the comments, we can read them.
Barry, you were making a point.
Yeah, the reason I made that change is because your certificate of incorporation is more restrictive. And so if we want to make this in the certificate of incorporation governs in this scenario. And so if we wanted it to be 9 nor more than 25, we would have to amend your certificate of incorporation to do so.
So you made it 3 and not more than 15.
Correct. And that change was just to match what your existing certificate of incorporation says.
Lydia, Lydia's
point,
comment, yeah.
Is Lydia commented that the SBA requirement is 9? Is it for a minimum?
And so, not trying to anger the SBA here, of course, if it would make sense to do so, we could revert back to the minimum of 9. Still can't exceed 15 under any event, but we should amend the certificate of incorporation to make it to whatever we want it to be going forward, because they're not consistent.
So, yeah, I see that.
I'm
So-
supportive of that amendment,
Yeah.
amending our certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And going 9 to 15.
Yeah.
Well, no, 15 is what it says now. If we want it to be
Oh.
25, we'd have to amend it to be higher. So if we wanted to read back to what it was, 9, not more than 25, then we'd have to have an amendment to the certificate of incorporation.
Okay, so let's recommend, Zach, that we're going to amend that portion there, just so we're in line with the SBA and everything is uniform.
Okay.
So can someone just summarize, just so I'm clear?
But,
The
yeah.
bylaws are going to say what?
At least 9, no more than 25.
Yeah, the bylaws, basically,
Okay.
we're going to ignore this change and we're going to authorize an amendment to the certificate of incorporation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
For the meeting of directors section of the bylaws, there was a restriction, basically, that if a board member participated electronically, they could not vote and didn't count as part of a quorum. And so we amended that to provide for more flexibility for electronic participation at board meetings, to be more consistent with recent amendments to the not-for-profit corporation law that would permit this.
What page is that on, Barry?
Page 8 of your packet, page 4 of the bylaws. So we had an insert basically explaining that, any board member who is not present can participate by telephone or other electronic means. And it sort of counts as if you were in the room, as long as you can hear and communicate sort of simultaneously. And we deleted reference that anyone who does that didn't count for the quorum or could not vote. Now, the important thing to note here is that you're still coming up, I guess, after March 15th, potentially, you're still subject to the open meetings law in the future. So if you want to participate electronically, in addition to these bylaw requirements, you'd have to follow the open meetings law requirements. But I did not see a reason to have artificial additional restrictions in your bylaws, right? Let's make it as easy as possible to participate within the means of the not-for-profit corporation law.
Makes sense, the pandemic clause.
Exactly.
Well, so for public, the public forum, will this allow anybody that wants to zoom in?
So we've been making recommendations to folks that if they wanted to continue having Zoom as an option, you can continue for the public to participate. You can continue to do that. You can always be more expansive to allow public participation at your meetings, but you don't have to. Obviously, once the open meetings law is back in effect, you're required to potentially live stream where practicable. But otherwise, you just have to provide notice of where the meeting is and allow people to attend in person.
Great, thanks, great, good clarification.
The next sort of section was page 11 of your packet, going on page 12. There was references to independent directors. And so rather than leaving that lowercase, we decided to define it as to what independence would mean in this scenario. So we just added the definition there and then sort of capitalized it throughout so that folks would know what the requirements are. For example, to be on the finance committee or governance committee, or, you know, you have to have a majority of independent members or independent directors in this case. So what does that mean? So I thought it would make sense to define that. Those were sort of the end of the major changes to the bylaws. The rest were sort of cleanup comments. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know.
Robin.
This, what we're proposing are further amendments to the bylaws. So does this bring this to, this will be the 18th amendment?
It will be, yes. I didn't
restate, but okay.
No, it will be the 18th amendment. And I didn't change that at the top, and I didn't change the date at the bottom because I wasn't sure if all these changes or any of them were going to be acceptable. So I didn't want to be presumptuous.
Okay. And then for the change of the certificate of authorization, you're going to change that in this, right?
So yeah, the certificate of incorporation amendment is a legal filing that we'll need to get the county executive to weigh in on as well, because he'll need to sign it as the sole member of the organization. So that will be a process. We'll prepare the proposed changes, and if there's any other changes that, you know, everyone thinks would be beneficial to do, we can do it at that time. That will be something that, you know, may take a little bit of time. And once we have it finalized and everyone's comments weighed in, we'll bring it to the board for approval.
Okay.
Is what my recommendation would be.
All right. So for now, so all right, the motion to readopt, it will be the motion to readopt the bylaws with the changes minus section 2, letter A. Is that
correct? And then, you know, a resolution to authorize, or a recommendation to amend the certificate of incorporation.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions?
Actually, I wrote the motion wrong, Zach. It should be motion to recommend the bylaws with the changes as noted. We're recommending that the full board make the changes.
Correct.
I wrote that wrong for you, Zach. That's my fault.
Okay. Recommend the changes.
Yeah, to the full board.
Okay. Okay. So right now we'll have a motion to recommend the changes minus section 2, letter A to the full board.
And I would move that along with the recommendation for the change in the certificate of
change of the
incorporation.
certificate
And I
of
second,
incorporation. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Is So Robin, you're good with all?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
I got it.
Okay. All right. So moving on, the governance committee charter.
No recommended changes. So the recommendation would be to recommend readoption.
So a motion to readopt the governance committee charter with no changes.
So move.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
aye.
Thank you. All right, next is to review policies and procedures. And we can do a motion at the end for all of them.
Sure. So I will walk through the proposed sort of changes. I'll take them one at a time, and tell you where there was no changes. But the code of ethics, I did not have any suggested edits to that policy or to the compensation, reimbursement, and attendance policy. For the conflict of interest policy, they were sort of mostly minor changes to define, to sort of clarify, use defined terms for the corporation, board members, sort of legal counsel. I did add a reference to an annual reporting that's required, just so that it was clear sort of what, additional requirement that is required to be done and where the sort of requirement comes from. Thought it would be helpful to have that in there. But otherwise, the rest of the changes were sort of cleanup changes.
Okay.
Conflict of interest policy. I did not have any suggested edits to that one.
That's the one that they just approved late last year. That's specific to the SBA, right? Lydia, you can nod your head if I said that right.
The defense and indemnification policy, again, sort of adopted a little bit of a lead in and made it a bit more expansive, just to describe why you have to adopt this policy, where that requirement comes from, and then, just making sure that it applied to members, directors, committee members, for example, officers and employees, and just sort of making it clear that it was intended to cover all of that. And that, any indemnification sort of policy would be in accordance with your bylaws, because your bylaws has a similar indemnification provision. So just wanted to sort of clean that up a little bit.
Let's go back to the conflict of interest policy. Did we
Yep.
approve that, Zach?
No, we're gonna approve everything at the end. So right now it's just discussion.
Hold on for a minute, because so you want to do these in a bundle, right? So
Yeah.
he's recommending on the conflict of interest, no change, right, Barry?
Correct.
Okay, and so on the defense and indemnification policy, you're recommending change, right?
I did.
Okay, so Zach, we may have to do these one at a time.
So you can do them and it's your choice, however you want to do it. You can do them that way, one at a time, or you can do it as a bunch and with changes as noted. And then in the minutes, I'll note which ones had changes. Whichever you prefer.
It's up to you, Zach.
I mean, I'm okay with doing it all at the end, with changes noted.
Okay.
Real property disposition policy, made some changes. You'll notice in section 2 of who you're required to deliver reports to. I added the authority budget office, which is someone you have to file the reports to. Some of the other sort of changes were minor. In, I guess, page 37 of the packet, just added that any transfers have to be within the governing statute of the corporation, which is required sort of by law. And then in page 38, if you're going to make a disposition below fair market value, in addition to an appraisal, I thought it would be wise to sort of have any other information establishing the fair market value sought by the board to also be sort of required and included in this policy as sort of a best practice and to sort of mirror what is required by law. I think this is Lydia noting that the SBA requires a minimum of 9 voting members and no more than 25. So that's where that those sort of numbers came from. We'll just have to amend the certificate of incorporation to match it. Extension of credit. Most of these, frankly, were just cleanup changes, just to make it clear. None of them really were sort of intended to be substantive, just to clean it up. No comments to the FOIL policy or the internal control policy or the internal control procedures. The investment policy, we just went over at the finance committee. There will be a change there in section 2 for deposit of monies. It's not marked in your packet, but basically the limit's $5 million for any one bank.
Did they talk about 3F or Laser Max investment? I
the
feel
finance
compelled to at least bring it up. We gripe about it annually, so this is my annual gripe.
They didn't talk about it.
No.
Greg's not on this meeting, unfortunately. I would defer to him. Can we get back to you?
Yes, yeah, just that the governance committee would like the finance committee to take a little harder look there, please.
Okay. I can have Greg address it at the board meeting.
That'd be terrific.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the sort of local labor policy, these were just cleanup changes. There was no sort of recommended changes to this. You know, the local labor market is defined. And so no real changes here unless, you know, anyone has any questions. Didn't have any changes to the procurement policy. The public participation policy, the only sort of, I guess you could call it, change that has any substance is in number 5. Your policy sort of allowed you to accept written materials and provide a response at a later date. I changed that to you would review it at a later date. You're not required to provide a response to anything, and I don't want there to ever be an indication that you're required to respond. No changes to records retention or the sexual harassment policy. No changes to travel or business expense. For the whistleblower policy, we just added in the lead-in as far as who is protected for disclosing. In addition to code of ethics, the sexual harassment and conflict of interest policies, so that all of that would be sort of covered or intended to be covered under this policy. And then there was no changes to pay equity either. Any questions? I know I went through that sort of quickly, but any questions to any of the modifications? I think overall the policies were in good shape. We just sort of made some tweaks to either bring them further in line or to make best practice recommendations.
No, I do not have any questions. Peter?
I like them all. Thanks for doing that, Barry. It's, I think it reads a little cleaner and gives us a little latitude in a couple of spots where it's all appropriate comments.
Thank you, no problem.
All right, so so what we can do is we can have one motion to approve all the policies and procedures with changes as we just discussed.
So
Yeah.
moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right. Next is review the summary board evaluations. And I think Robin will share her screen.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
So not everybody's completed all their paperwork that they're supposed to. So if I knew how to screen share, I would do it. Hold on. Screen share. This. Share. Where is it? Why isn't it there?
Oh, we see it.
You do? Oh,
Yeah.
what do I see? I don't know what I see. Okay. Can
We
you
see your
see this?
screen.
Okay. I don't, okay. So this is where we are to date. So we are still missing some and we're going to hound people. So hopefully by the full board meeting, we'll have the final copy to share with the full board. And then this does get submitted to the ABO, the Authority Budget Office.
It's just this one form.
Yep, this is it. So I take everybody's answers and we just cumulate, put it all together on a one form that is shared with the board and the ABO. So once it's finalized, I guess at the full board meeting, we'll have we can have a larger discussion on, any issues that anyone sees or anyone wants to raise.
I mean, yeah, overall it looks really good.
Mhm.
Just a couple things that we could take another look at.
Right. I would agree.
All right.
And then let's see if I can do this one. Your oh shoot, finance governance. This is your committee, the summary of committee. So you've got 3 out of 4. So one of you hasn't sent your forms in. So this is where you are at the committee level. And this doesn't get submitted to the ABO. This is just for internal discussion.
Okay.
Well, I'm probably on the naughty list, so go ahead and hound me.
I think you are. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. Oh,
And this will be shared with the full board or?
Not the committee one.
Okay. All right. So so a couple of these things, like does the committee recommend qualifications for new board members? So we're not sure on that one, I guess. Is that something we should discuss now or when or how do we discuss these?
So the bylaws will have, information about governance committee as far as who you need to have independent directors and things of that nature, which is sort of the only required qualification as far as your bylaws go. And as far as, training and other things, we would be happy to put together a training if you think it would be beneficial, either for governance or for board overall. The ABO does have board training as well that folks can take. So we're happy to mention that as well. And the SBA has specific board member expertise requirements, as Lydia is pointing out, as far as, qualifications of individual board members. Obviously, some need to have expertise in financial matters, governance, audit, et cetera. So.
Well, Hanif and Peter, is this something like we think they could send us information that we read independently to learn, or we should get together and review this?
That's entirely up to you, Zach, what you think. I mean, I'm open for anything. That's an area that we really should look at based upon the survey. Then we have to give it some due diligence.
Yeah. Well, so I guess we'll have the final one. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter what the final one is. There's some points that we should discuss. So are we gonna get back together in person in the future, or what is the outlook of that?
So, Barry, do you want to answer?
Oh, so the current suspension of the open meetings law goes until March 15th. I don't anticipate that it will be extended. I don't have any inside baseball on that other than masks are being dropped in schools and other places, which means I don't see a necessary emergency type scenario being extended. And so on and after March 15th, I would expect that it would all be in person going forward.
So the next board meeting is in person on the 23rd.
Correct. That is my expectation.
Well, I mean, Hanif and Peter, I mean, we maybe, I don't know if the 23rd, we could pull the training together anyway. But I mean, potentially like the April meeting, maybe we could stay after the board meeting or meet before it, because the board meetings, what, are noon now, right?
Yes.
So does something like that sound before or after?
You're proposing what, a board training?
I don't know if we need a board or a committee training. What would?
What are we addressing? You're addressing something in the survey, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was the
Want me to pull it back up?
Sure.
I couldn't see it. It was so small.
Oh, I don't know how to make it bigger.
Oh,
That's
no.
all right.
Oh, if you just make your screen bigger, Robin, go like 150%, that would maybe the view.
View.
Yeah.
Oh. Zoom.
There you go. Sure.
Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, look at me.
So what are we looking at?
Question 6.
Yeah, 6. I mean, I think that's the big one. And I think the other ones are more of just a discussion. Quickly looking this over.
So, so if we're going to have a training, what are we having it on?
Well,
I would assume, again, if we were to do it, we would focus on sort of board members' roles and responsibilities, fiduciary duties, the sort of core governance features of a board over an organization. We could also focus, obviously, on whatever additional things that people want to focus on, whether it be, conflicts of interest or whatever else that people want to explore.
Well, Robin, let me ask you this question. Were other committees on question number 6? Was there questions on that too? Maybe all the people on one of the committees, or if you're on a committee, it would be good training for.
Finance didn't make anything on it, and the audit committee I don't have open right now.
Okay.
Because they're meeting next week. I can find it, but.
So if we do the training at the next board meeting on the 23rd, we're giving everybody a chance to sort of arrange it to where they can be there.
Yeah, or I don't know if the training could be pulled together in 2 weeks, but or the April meeting.
Yeah, I would recommend the April meeting, because March is a little funny with all the required.
Yeah, I said the April
policy
meeting.
stuff. Yeah, April meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And Barry's going to do that training. Who's going to do the training?
I have volunteered.
Okay,
Okay, so yeah, we could have it for the governance, but invite anybody else from any of the other committees. Does that sound right?
Or do you want it at the full board level?
I
Oh,
think the full board level needs to go through it.
Okay,
Certainly invite them. I think Zach was onto the right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, if Robin thinks the full board, then everyone will just be there if we do it during a full board meeting. Or Robin, were you just saying do it before or after?
No, I was saying do it, include the whole board,
Okay,
but
But just to clarify, not necessarily at a board meeting, either before, after, or, I mean, you
After
could
the
do,
bo- After the board meeting.
yep.
okay, that sounds good to me. Okay. All right, so there's nothing that we have to do other than what we just talked about.
Right.
Okay.
And just
Um,
to bring it together on, just to bring it together on the other point too, we may be able to discuss, fee schedule issues at that board meeting or
good point.
as a committee meeting as well. Sorry, Zach, that was the finance committee before this
okay.
one.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. So lastly, is there any other business? Okay. All right, the motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, take care, guys.
All right,
Thanks, Zach.
Everyone.
thank you.